a tiny, dark piece of metal sitting forgotten in a dusty glass jar on your nightstand. It has been tossed into cup holders, buried under junk drawers, and passed through thousands of hands without a second glance. To anyone else, it is just a worthless piece of loose pocket change. But to those who know the secret, that innocent copper disc dated 1944 with no mint mark could be the ultimate lottery ticket hiding in plain sight. Right now, in homes all across America, ordinary people are sitting on fortunes they do not even know exist. Rumors and record-breaking sales in the coin world have sent shockwaves through collectors and everyday hoarders alike, with whisperings of legendary error specimens and pristine high-grade survivors fetching staggering figures upward of $1.5 million at auction. Could that unassuming penny sitting in your drawer right now be worth a life-changing fortune? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most mysterious, misunderstood, and wildly valuable coins in American history, the 1944 Lincoln Wheat penny with no mint mark. To understand why this specific coin holds such extraordinary power over the market, we have to travel back in time to one of the most turbulent periods in modern history. The year was 1944. World War II was reaching its climax, and the United States government was rationing critical materials for the war effort. Just 1 year earlier, in 1943, the military needed every single ounce of copper for artillery shells, ammunition, and military equipment. Because of this urgent demand, the United States Mint made a drastic decision. They stopped using copper for pennies and manufactured the famous 1943 steel cents instead. Those silver-colored steel pennies of 1943 were a massive departure from tradition, but they quickly created widespread confusion among the American public. People hated them, they rusted easily, and they were frequently mistaken for dimes in everyday transactions. By the time 1944 arrived, the military had secured spent brass shell casings from battlefield recovery efforts. The Mint decided to switch back to a copper-based alloy, striking billions of pennies using recycled military brass. The main Philadelphia Mint went into overdrive, churning out over 1 billion 1944 pennies to meet the soaring demands of a booming war economy. Because they were minted in Philadelphia, these coins carried no mint mark below the date. To the average citizen in 1944, they were just ordinary copper coins meant to buy a newspaper or a loaf of bread. Millions of them were thrown into circulation, bouncing from pocket to pocket, register to register, for decades. The first major secret lies in a legendary mistake that occurred during the transition from steel back to copper. At the end of 1943, when the mint workers cleared out the giant metal hoppers to prepare for the new 1944 copper planchets, a few leftover steel blanks remained trapped inside the machinery. Nobody noticed them. As the fresh 1944 dies began slamming down at high speed, those stray steel planchets were struck with the 1944 date. The result was a coin that should never have existed. A 1944 Lincoln penny struck on a zinc-coated steel blank. When these error coins slipped out of the mint and into public hands, they became instant holy grails. Today, a verified 1944 steel penny with no mint mark is one of the most sought-after mechanical mistakes in numismatic history. When these ultra-rare pieces hit major auction blocks, intense bidding wars erupt. High-quality examples have commanded hundreds of thousands of dollars, with legendary pristine pieces generating viral claims and astronomical estimates reaching up to $1.5 million in sensational market hype. Think about that for a moment. A tiny piece of steel, minted by accident during the height of World War II, carrying the value of a luxury mansion. And because these coins were mixed directly into normal bags of money, any one of them could have ended up in your grandfather's piggy bank or tucked away inside an old coffee can in your attic. But the steel error is not the only hidden treasure waiting to be discovered in the 1944 series. There is another layer to this mystery that everyday people walk past every single day without realizing it. It comes down to something known as coin condition, grade, and surface preservation. When a coin is minted, it leaves the press in what experts call mint state condition. It possesses a bright, original luster, crisp details, and flawless surfaces. But as soon as that coin touches another penny, drops into a cash register, or gets rubbed between human fingers, it begins to wear down. Over decades, bright orange copper fades into dull brown. Fine details on Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalks were flat, and scratches cover the surface. Out of the hundreds of millions of copper 1944 pennies minted in Philadelphia, virtually all of them went straight into heavy circulation. They were used to buy candy, pay for bus fares, and make change at corner markets. Millions were lost in the dirt, melted down, or worn down to smooth discs of metal over 80 years of continuous handling. Finding a 1944 wheat penny today in heavily worn brown condition is relatively easy. You might find one in a coin roll from the bank, worth maybe 10 or 20 cents. But finding a 1944 Philadelphia wheat penny that somehow escaped public hands entirely, remaining in pure, untarnished, original mint state condition for over 8 decades, is like finding a needle in a global haystack. Coin grading services evaluate coins on a strict scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded 60 is uncirculated, but it might have small contact marks. As you go higher on the scale, the rarity skyrockets exponentially. A 1944 copper penny graded mint state 65 is scarce. A 1944 copper penny graded mint state 67 is extremely rare. But when you reach mint state 68 or higher, with full original red mint luster, you enter the realm of elite trophy coins. At these ultra-high grades, collector demand explodes. Wealthy investors and passionate numismatists battle fiercely at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers to acquire these perfect time capsules. A coin that appears identical to an ordinary penny to the untrained eye can suddenly jump in value from 20 cents to tens of thousands of dollars simply because it retained its original factory glow without a single microscopic scratch. Imagine holding 2 identical-looking pennies in your palm. One was pulled from circulation after decades of wear, worth pennies. The other was placed inside an envelope in 1944 by a soldier or collector, protected from air and moisture, preserved perfectly until today. To an untrained observer, they are both just old pennies. To the market, one is ordinary change, and the other is a hidden fortune. The mystery deepens even further when you examine manufacturing die errors. During the intense rush to produce massive quantities of coinage in 1944, the working dies used to stamp the images onto blank metal planchets were subjected to incredible stress. Sometimes, a die would move slightly between hubbing impressions, creating what is known as a double die error. If you look closely at certain 1944 Lincoln cents under strong magnification, you might spot subtle doubling on the date, the lettering of "In God We Trust," or the Liberty inscription. Other coins show dramatic die cracks, retained planchet flaws, or off-center strikes where the metal was improperly aligned during the stamping process. Collectors actively hunt for these mechanical anomalies. An off-center strike or a prominent double die on a 1944 penny transforms an ordinary piece of copper into a unique historical art piece. While minor die cracks might add a modest premium, major unlisted double dies or severe striking errors can drive values up into thousands of dollars when discovered by sharp-eyed hunters. The search begins with a simple process that anyone can perform right at home. First, grab every old penny you can find. Look closely at the date beneath Abraham Lincoln's portrait. Make sure it reads 1944, and verify that there is no mint mark letter, such as a D or an S, underneath the year. That confirms your coin was produced at the historic Philadelphia Mint. Next comes the most dramatic test of all, the magnet test. If you suspect you have stumbled upon the legendary 1944 steel error coin, grab a strong household magnet. A normal 1944 copper penny will not stick to a magnet at all. Copper is non-magnetic. But if you hold a magnet over your 1944 penny and it instantly snaps to the magnet with a sharp metallic click, your heart should start pounding. That magnetic attraction means the coin was struck on steel, instantly signaling that you may be holding one of the most famous error coins in American history. Be cautious, however. Over the years, fraudsters have attempted to trick collectors by taking common 1943 steel cents and altering the date to read 1944, or by copper-plating ordinary 1943 steel cents. That is why professional authentication by reputable third-party grading services like PCGS or NGC is critical before celebrating a major find. If your 1944 penny does not stick to a magnet, do not throw it back into the jar just yet. Examine its color and condition under direct lighting. Does it have a bright, brilliant orange copper hue, as if it was struck fresh at the mint this morning? Are the details on Lincoln's coat, hair, and the individual grains of wheat on the back razor sharp? If so, you could be holding an elite high-grade survivor worth thousands of dollars. Check the coin under a magnifying glass or a digital microscope. Look for doubling in the numbers of 1944 and the letters of liberty. Check for strange clips in the metal, uncentered images, or unusual textures. Every single detail matters. The story of the 1944 wheat penny reminds us of a powerful truth. Extraordinary value is often hidden beneath the most ordinary surfaces. Millions of people walk through life every day, handling money without ever looking closely at what is passing through their hands. They pay for coffee, toss change into cup holders, and leave jars of old coins gathering dust in basements, completely oblivious to the hidden treasure sitting right under their noses. The coin market is driven by passion, history, and the thrill of the hunt. Every single coin tells a story of the era in which it was born. A 1944 penny is not just a piece of metal. It is a physical artifact from the peak of World War II, crafted from recycled wartime shell casings, stamped by workers doing their duty for the nation, and preserved through 8 decades of American history. Whether you are a seasoned collector with decades of experience or someone who simply decided to empty out an old glass jar on the kitchen table tonight, the potential for discovery is real. Imagine reaching into your pocket right now, pulling out a handful of loose change, and tossing it onto the table. To most people, it looks like trash. Just a few dull, discarded copper discs gathering dust in the bottom of a cup holder or an old jar on your nightstand. But what if one of those ordinary cents hidden in your home right now was actually a sleeping giant? A forgotten piece of American history that collectors are hunting for with obsessive passion. What if a penny minted back in 1940, sitting completely unnoticed in your house, could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even a jaw-dropping fortune? Most people walk past these small copper coins every single day without giving them a second thought. They hand them over at grocery stores, let them slide under couch cushions, or drop them into jar after jar, assuming a penny will only ever be worth a single cent. But the coin world operates on a totally different set of rules. Beneath that worn, brownish surface lies a high-stakes arena of hidden mint mistakes, secretive high-grade auctions, and legendary treasure hunts that take place right under our noses. Today, we are unlocking the full, dramatic story behind the 1940 wheat Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Get ready, because after hearing this, you will never look at your spare change the same way again. To truly understand why this specific piece of copper holds such a powerful spell over collectors, we have to travel back in time. The year is 1940. America is standing on the razor-sharp edge of massive global transformation. The Great Depression is finally winding down. Factories are buzzing back to life, and the shadow of World War II is looming large on the horizon. Down at the main United States Mint in Philadelphia, giant industrial presses are stamping out millions upon millions of brand new Lincoln cents. Because these coins were struck at the primary facility in Philadelphia, they carry no mint mark beneath the date. No letter S, no letter D. Just the clean, classic 1940 date sitting right below the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln. On the back, 2 stylized stalks of wheat frame the words 1 cent. To the average worker in 1940 buying a newspaper or a cup of coffee, this penny was just a piece of everyday pocket money. Millions of them circulated from hand to hand, getting scraped, dropped, bruised, and worn down by decades of American life. And that is precisely where our mystery begins. Because when millions of coins are produced, almost all of them get heavily used. They circulate until their details melt away into a smooth, featureless brown plain. Finding a 1940 wheat penny today is not extraordinarily difficult in a heavily worn state. You might even catch one in your local supermarket change tomorrow. But finding one that escaped the harsh wear and tear of time, finding one that looks like it was struck 5 minutes ago, preserving its original fiery red luster, that is where ordinary copper transforms into absolute gold. In the world of rare coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are evaluated on a strict numerical scale from 1 all the way up to 70. A coin graded 60 or higher is considered uncirculated or mint state. But here is the secret that separates basic pocket change from astronomical auction results. the color and preservation of the metal. When copper coins leave the die, they shine with a brilliant, gleaming orange-red glow. Over time, oxygen, moisture, and human hands turn that bright red into mellow brown. A standard brown 1940 penny might only fetch a few cents or a couple of dollars. But a 1940 Lincoln cent that has managed to retain its full, original mint red luster, graded mint state 67 or higher by professional authentication services, is an insanely rare survivor. When these pristine, gem-quality specimens hit the auction block, serious collectors go into a frenzy. Bidding wars erupt, prices skyrocket into thousands of dollars, and collectors battle fiercely for a piece of perfection that somehow survived unscathed for over 80 years. Yet, raw condition is only one piece of this thrilling puzzle. What truly sends shockwaves through the numismatic community are the bizarre, anomalous mistakes that occurred inside the minting facility itself. Human error and mechanical glitches have created some of the most valuable treasures in American history. Imagine a fresh blank planchet feeding into the coining press. The heavy steel dies come slamming down to impress Lincoln's image onto the metal. But what happens when something goes wrong? What happens when a die is misaligned, or a coin is struck twice, or a die clash leaves ghost-like impressions across the surface? Over the years, rumors and whispered legends have circulated about extreme 1940 Lincoln penny errors. Stories persist of rare double-struck examples, dramatic off-center strikes, and elusive die doubling that creates mysterious shadow text on the lettering and date. Collectors endlessly scan the letters of Liberty and the numbers of 1940 through powerful magnifying loupes, searching desperately for the subtle doubling that proves a coin was born from a flawed die. Then there are the wild, mind-bending rumors that send internet forums into a total frenzy. Stories of hyper-rare planchet errors, pennies accidentally struck on silver quarter blanks or experimental metal alloys amidst wartime preparations. Rumors have even claimed that an ultimate hyper-rare error from this era could command astonishing, life-changing sums on the open market, with whisper numbers reaching up to a staggering $1.6 million in extreme mythical auction claims. While these astronomical headline-grabbing numbers often represent the absolute pinnacle of viral hype, legendary rumors, or one-of-a-kind museum-grade anomalies, they fuel a very real and thrilling truth. Unbelievable treasures genuinely exist hiding in plain sight. Every major discovery in coin history started with someone simply taking a closer look at a piece of metal everyone else ignored. Think about the journey a single 1940 penny has taken over the past 8 decades. It was minted during a time of global uncertainty. It survived the Second World War, the post-war boom, the turbulent 60s, and decades of changing economic landscapes. It passed through thousands of hands, sat in old forgotten piggy banks, fell behind dresser drawers, and lay buried in dusty attic boxes. Millions of these coins were melted down, lost to history, or worn down until their details faded away forever. The surviving pristine specimens and dramatic error coins are microscopic needles in a massive nationwide haystack. And the most incredible part of this entire story? That haystack is sitting right in your town, your neighborhood, and potentially inside your own house right now. Right this second, across the country, millions of old coins sit tucked away in forgotten places. They are resting in grandfather's old cigar boxes stored away in dark closets. They are buried in old glass jars resting on garage shelves, or sitting quietly in the back of forgotten desk drawers. Most people look at an old jar of coins and see $20 in spending money. They think about taking it to a coin counting machine at the local grocery store and dumping it in to get quick cash. That single mistake could be catastrophic. Dumping a jar of vintage wheat cents into an automated counting machine without checking them first is like throwing away unchecked lottery tickets. You could be handing over a pristine, high-grade 1940 red Lincoln penny or a rare, unreported die error for face value, letting a massive fortune slip right through your fingers. So how do you hunt for these hidden treasures? How do you know if the 1940 penny sitting on your desk is just a common piece of history or a high-value collector piece? First, examine the surface color under a strong light. Is it a dull, dark brown, or does it shine with a vivid, brilliant reddish-orange glow? Original red color is the first major key to high-value grade potential. Next, take a close look at the details of Lincoln's hair, his coat, and the fine lines on the wheat stalks on the back. If those fine lines are crisp, sharp, and raised without heavy flat spots or deep scratches, you might be holding a high-grade survivor. Second, get yourself a low-cost magnifying glass or a digital microscope and start inspecting the small details. Look closely at the date 1940 and the word Liberty. Are the letters crisp and single, or do you see clear, distinct double lines tracing the edges? Look for strange die cracks, misaligned rims, or dramatic off-center strikes where part of the design is completely missing. Every single detail matters. A tiny mechanical flaw or a preserved coat of original mint luster can instantly turn a simple coin into a prized item sought after by collectors across the globe. The hunt for valuable coins is not just a hobby. It is a real-life treasure hunt taking place in the real world every single day. People just like you, everyday individuals cleaning out a basement, sorting through estate sales, or simply going through a box of rolled cents from the bank, have made shocking, life-changing discoveries simply because they knew what to look for. The excitement of holding a piece of 1940 American history in the palm of your hand, knowing that it might hold secret value, is a thrill unlike any other. It connects us directly to the past while opening up incredible possibilities for the future. Now it is your turn to join the hunt. Don't let those old jars of coins sit there gathering dust for another decade. Go find every single jar, box, and piggy bank in your house. Grab a flashlight, get a magnifying glass, and start sorting through those pennies piece by piece. Look for that smooth, historic date, 1940. Check for the missing mint mark. Inspect the color, look for crisp details, and search relentlessly for errors. The fortune you have been dreaming about might not be hidden in a buried chest on a distant island. What if a single penny sitting inside an old jar on your nightstand isn't just loose change, but a hidden piece of generational wealth? What if the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars comes down to a tiny, almost invisible letter stamped onto a piece of copper 70 years ago? Right now, millions of people across America walk past fortune every single day. They toss handfuls of coins into cup holders, drop them into vending machines, or let them collect dust at the bottom of drawers. But while most copper pennies are completely ordinary, there is one specific coin from 1955 that continues to drive the entire coin-collecting world into an absolute frenzy. We are talking about the 1955 D wheat penny. Now, if you ask a casual observer, they will tell you that 1955 was simply the year of the legendary double die obverse penny, the famous mistake coin where the letters and numbers look double to the naked eye. But whisper the words 1955D to a seasoned coin hunter, and watch their eyes light up with suspense. Because behind that little D mint mark lies one of the most intriguing, dramatic, and potentially lucrative stories in American history. Rumors, viral claims, and high-stakes auctions have linked the specific coin to mind-boggling figures, with whisper numbers and extreme hype pushing claims as high as $1.7 million for the absolute holy grail of condition and error combinations. Is it possible that you are holding a fortune in your hand right now? Let us uncover the truth, the mystery, and the unbelievable value hiding in plain sight. To understand why this specific coin holds such an irresistible grip on collectors, you have to rewind the clock to the year 1955. America was in the middle of a post-war boom. Eisenhower was in the White House, rock and roll was taking over the airwaves, and the United States Mint was striking millions upon millions of copper coins to keep up with a booming economy. At the Denver Mint, worker after worker monitored the massive steel presses as thousands of planchets were stamped with the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the classic twin stalks of wheat on the back. The tiny letter D was punched under the date to signify its origin in the mile-high city. Because so many were produced, common wisdom declared that the 1955 D penny would never be worth more than its face value.
Millions enterent circulation.
They bought newspapers, paid for candy bars, and slipped through millions of fingers. And that is precisely where the trap lies. Because when something is produced in massive quantities, people treat it like trash. They do not save it. They do not preserve it. They throw it into circulation where it gets scratched, worn down, dropped on asphalt, and corroded by sweat and time. Decades passed, and as the years rolled on, something incredible began to happen. The overwhelming majority of 1955 D pennies were destroyed by everyday life. Finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition became extraordinarily difficult. But rarity in condition was only the first layer of this unraveling mystery. Behind closed doors at major coin conventions and secret private auctions, whisper stories began to circulate. Tales of bizarre, microscopic mint errors. Stories of re-punched mint marks where the letter D was stamped twice by a nervous mint worker's hand. Legends of off-center strikes, planchet flaws, and mysterious die cracks that transformed an ordinary piece of copper into a unique piece of American art. Then came the digital revolution, and with it, the viral explosion of coin hunting. Reports began to surface on online forums and auction archives. Coin hunters were scouring estate sales, bank rolls, and forgotten piggy banks. And every now and then, a bombshell hit the market. A coin graded in near flawless state, radiating its original mint red copper luster without a single scratch, sold for a mind-bending price. Then another. Then rumors began to circulate about ultra-rare error varieties linked to the 1955 D coins so insanely rare that elite collectors were willing to throw open their vaults and bid against billionaires just to own one. Viral claims began to circulate like wildfire across the internet. Headline after headline teased the impossible. Could a 1955 D penny really be worth up to $1.7 million under the absolute perfect storm of rarity, error, and flawless preservation? To understand how a tiny piece of copper reaches such astronomical hype, you have to understand the brutal world of professional coin grading. When a coin is sent to top-tier grading services, experts examine every single millimeter under intense magnification. They look for strike strength, surface marks, luster, and color. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded 65 is considered gem uncirculated. Beautiful but obtainable. A coin graded 66 is rare. A coin graded 67 is exceptionally scarce. But a 1955 D penny graded MS67 red or higher, that is where the math completely breaks down. That is where logic vanishes and obsession takes over. At that level, you are not buying a penny. You are buying a survivor, a miraculous artifact that somehow escaped 70 years of human handling without taking a single microscopic scratch. Combine that flawless condition with a rare mint error, like a dramatic re-punched mint mark or a rare die clash, and the bidding wars escalate into the stratosphere. Investors and high-net-worth collectors buy these coins not just as hobbies, but as alternative assets, driving values up to levels that seem completely surreal to the average person. Think about what is sitting in your house right now. Think about the jar of change sitting on your dresser. Think about the old coffee tin in your grandfather's basement. Think about the loose coins buried between the cushions of your couch or resting at the bottom of your coat pocket. Inside those forgotten piles of metal lies a real-life treasure hunt. You do not need a metal detector on a deserted beach. You do not need a shovel or a treasure map. The treasure has already been mined, struck by the United States government, and handed directly to the public. Every time you break a bill at a cash register and receive a hand full of copper back, you are holding history. And among those coins could be the exact 1955 D that collector networks have been desperately searching for. Look closely at the date the next time you hold a wheat penny. Look for that 1955. Look right below it for that crisp, bold letter D. Does the letter look slightly doubled? Is there a faint shadow of a second D underneath the first? Does the coin shine with a bright, fiery red copper brilliance that looks like it left the Denver press yesterday morning? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, you might be holding something that could completely redefine your financial reality. The market for rare coins is hotter today than it has ever been in human history. Millions of dollars change hands every single month as a new generation of smart, vigilant hunters realizes that wealth isn't just made on Wall Street. It is found in ordinary pocket change. The stories of everyday people stumbling onto extraordinary finds are real. The person who bought a box of old coins at a yard sale for $20 and sold a single penny for thousands. The teenager who searched through bank rolls and found a piece of history that paid for their college tuition. The grandmother who checked an old piggy bank and discovered a coin that transformed her retirement. These are not fairy tales. They are documented auction results. They are the reality of a market driven by intense demand, historical fascination, and finite supply. Take a look at the palm of your hand. Imagine holding a tiny piece of copper that feels completely weightless, something you might easily toss into a tip jar or leave sitting at the bottom of a dusty cup holder in your car. It looks completely unremarkable. It bears the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, worn down by decades of passing from hand to hand. You would probably assume it is worth exactly 1 cent. But what if that single, forgotten coin sitting right beside your car keys is actually worth more than your house? What if a simple mistake made inside a government mint nearly 80 years ago transformed an ordinary penny into a hidden fortune that collectors are desperately trying to track down? Right now, across the country, millions of old coins are sitting in glass jars, coffee cans, desk drawers, and wooden boxes tucked away in attics. Most people glance at them and see worthless pocket change from a bygone era. But inside the high-stakes world of elite rare coin collecting, whispers have been spreading about one specific year and one specific coin. We are talking about the 1946 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark. On the surface, it seems like one of the most common coins ever produced in American history. Yet rumors, viral collector reports, and staggering auction results have pushed interest in this humble coin to an absolute fever pitch. Some experts suggest that in ultra-high condition, or with specific catastrophic mint errors, this unassuming piece of metal can skyrocket in value from a humble cent to thousands, tens of thousands, or in legendary hyper-rare instances, whisper numbers reaching toward nearly $2 million on the private market. Could you be holding one of these secret treasures right now without even realizing it? The answer might surprise you, and the story behind how this ordinary penny became a holy grail for coin hunters is full of mystery, history, and incredible wealth. The Philadelphia Mint went into overdrive. In 1946 alone, the Philadelphia facility struck over 990 million Lincoln pennies. Because coins produced in Philadelphia during that era did not feature a mint mark below the date, these coins simply read 1946. On paper, that massive production number should mean that a 1946 penny without a mint mark is common, cheap, and virtually worthless. And for 99% of the ones you find in everyday circulation, that is true. Most of them are worth just a few cents for their raw copper value. So why are serious investors and die-hard coin collectors spending thousands of dollars searching through massive hordes of 1946 pennies? Why are coin auctions seeing intense bidding wars over a coin that was minted nearly 1 billion times? The secret lies in what happened behind closed doors inside the minting facility during that frantic post-war rush. When a mint is forced to strike nearly 1 billion coins in a single year, machinery gets overworked. Dies wear out. Operators make mistakes. Metal sheets get misfed. Planchets, the blank metal discs used to stamp coins, get mixed up or improperly prepared. In the chaos of 1946, a small number of extraordinarily rare errors and pristine coins escaped into circulation, launching a treasure hunt that continues to this day. Think about how a coin is made. A blank piece of metal is fed into a high-pressure press. Heavy steel dies slam into the metal with immense force, stamping Lincoln profile on the front and the iconic twin stalks of wheat on the back. Under normal circumstances, this process creates a perfect, uniform coin. But in 1946, the relentless speed of production led to bizarre anomalies. One of the most sought-after mysteries surrounding the 1946 penny involves double die errors. Imagine a steel die stamping the image onto a blank coin, but the die itself was accidentally struck twice at slightly different angles during its creation. When that flawed die strikes a copper planchet, it leaves behind a subtle shadow or a double image. On a 1946 double die penny, you might look through a magnifying glass and see unmistakable doubling in the lettering of "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or within the numerals of the date itself. To the naked eye, it looks like a normal penny. But under magnification, it transforms into an error coin that collector marketplaces will fight over fiercely. Then there are the repunched date errors and off-center strikes. In rare instances, coins were struck off-center because the metal blank did not settle properly in the collar of the press. A coin that is struck 10, 20, or 50% off-center, showing blank copper on one side and a partial impression of Lincoln on the other, turns an ordinary piece of change into a museum piece. Even stranger are the legendary wrong planchet errors. During post-war transitions, stray metal blanks from foreign coin contracts or earlier steel compositions occasionally found their way into the penny presses. Imagine a 1946 penny accidentally struck on a silver dime blank or a leftover steel planchet. Such coins are ultra-rare, legendary holy grails that send shockwaves through the numismatic community whenever one surfaces at a major auction house. But errors are only half of the story. The other path to astronomical value comes down to a concept that most non-collectors never consider: condition and grade. When a coin leaves the mint, it is in absolute pristine condition, glowing with original, untouched copper luster. This is known as mint state condition. But the moment that coin drops into a canvas bag, gets shipped to a bank, passes through a cash register, touches human hands, or sits in a pocket with keys and pocket knives, it begins to degrade. Moisture in the air reacts with copper, causing it to tarnish and turn brown. Scratches, scuffs, and fingerprints mar the surface. Over decades, almost every single 1946 penny turned from bright red copper to a dull, dark brown. Because copper reacts so aggressively with the atmosphere, finding a 1946 penny that has survived for 8 decades without losing its original red color is nearly impossible. Coin grading services like PCGS and NGC grade coins on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded mint state 60 is uncirculated but might have minor scratches. A coin graded mint state 65 is gem quality. But when you reach mint state 67 or mint state 68, you are talking about perfection. A standard brown 1946 penny in average condition might be worth 50 cents. Take that exact same coin, but find one that was preserved in a sealed vault, untouched by human skin or humidity, retaining its original full red luster with a mint state 67 or higher grade, and the value explodes. It jumps from 50 cents to hundreds of dollars, then to thousands of dollars. At the absolute apex of the market, where fierce billionaires compete for the finest known examples in existence, prices become astronomical. Viral claims and auction rumors have circulated stories of hyper-rare 1946 wheat penny specimens, combining flawless full red perfection with dramatic mint errors, fetching mind-boggling sums in private transactions, with claims pushing values toward the incredible threshold of $1.8 million. Whether an individual coin achieves that record-breaking figure in a high-profile private sale or captures the hearts of collectors at a public showcase, the underlying truth remains undeniable. The gap between a common pocket penny and a fortune-worth coin is microscopic, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone attentive enough to notice. This is what makes the 1946 Lincoln wheat penny so intoxicating for treasure hunters. It is the ultimate hidden gem. Unlike rare gold coins or historic ancient currency that only the ultra-wealthy can afford to buy, the 1946 penny was distributed to ordinary working-class Americans. It was given out as change at grocery stores, gas stations, diner counters, and movie theaters. It was tossed into piggy banks by children and stored in mason jars by grandparents who lived through the Great Depression and saved every bit of metal they could find. Think about your own family history. Think about the jars of change sitting in your closet, or the old coin collection passed down from a relative that no one has taken the time to examine closely. Thousands of these historical pennies are still out there, floating in estate sales, sitting in old coin rolls, or hiding in forgotten coffee cans waiting to be rediscovered. So how can you tell if the 1946 penny in your possession is just regular change or a potential high-value treasure? First, look at the date on the front of the coin, right below Lincoln chest. Ensure it clearly reads 1946. Look closely directly beneath the date. If there is no letter S and no letter D, then your coin was struck at the main mint in Philadelphia. Next, examine the color and surface of the coin under good lighting. Is it dark brown, dull and scratched? Or does it shine with a bright, warm, fiery red-orange luster that looks like it was minted yesterday? Coins with full original red luster are always the most valuable to professional graders. Then grab a strong magnifying glass or a digital microscope. Look carefully at the lettering. Do you see double lines on the word Liberty? Do the numbers in the date 1946 look thicker than normal, or do they show a shadowed secondary edge? Look at the outer rim of the coin. Is the design perfectly centered? Or is part of the image missing because the strike was misaligned? Check the metal itself. Does it feel lightweight? Or does it have an unusual metallic color that suggests it was struck on a leftover blank? Every single major coin discovery in history started with a moment of simple curiosity. Someone took a few extra seconds to look closely at a piece of metal everyone else ignored. Someone decided not to spend that old penny at the store, but instead held it up to the light to see what story it had to tell. The thrill of coin collecting is not just about the money, although the prospect of finding a life-changing rarity in your everyday change is undeniably exciting. It is about holding a physical piece of American history in your hand, connecting with the post-war era of 1946, and knowing that amidst billions of ordinary items, true anomalies exist. The next time you empty your pockets at the end of the day, do not just toss those pennies aside. Take a closer look. Check the dates. Inspect the details. Scan for errors. The fortune you have been dreaming about might not be locked away in a bank vault or hidden in a lottery ticket. It might be sitting quietly in the palm of your hand right now, waiting for you to unlock its secret. Start searching your change today, because you never know when an ordinary 1946 penny will turn out to be the ultimate hidden treasure. Right now, sitting quietly in your pocket, buried inside an old jar on your nightstand, or resting at the bottom of your car cup holder, there is a tiny piece of American history that could completely alter your financial future. It weighs barely 3 grams. It looks like every other weathered copper coin you have spent without a second thought. But look closer at the year engraved beneath Abraham Lincoln's profile. It reads 1973, and right below those 4 digits, there is no letter. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, nothing at all. Just a blank space. Most people look at a 1973 penny with no mint mark and assume it is worth exactly 1 cent. They hand it over at the grocery store cashier or toss it into a donation bucket without giving it a second look. That careless mistake happens millions of times every single day across America. But while the average person sees worthless pocket change, high-end coin collectors, private investors, and auction houses are quietly scouring the market for this exact coin. Behind closed doors, intense bidding wars have erupted over specific 1973 no-mint mark cents, driving sale prices from ordinary spare change into thousands of dollars at major national auctions. Even more shocking are the shadowy whispers and viral market reports claiming that an ultra-rare experimental variant from this exact era could be sitting on a fortune valued at over $1.1 million. To understand why a simple piece of copper from 1973 has ignited such massive obsession, you have to rewind to the early 1970s. The United States was in the middle of a massive economic shift. Copper prices were soaring worldwide, and the United States Mint in Philadelphia was facing a terrifying predicament. It was becoming more expensive to melt, stamp, and mint a single penny than the coin was actually worth on the street. The Philadelphia Mint responded by churning out over 3 billion pennies in 1973. Because Philadelphia was the main mint facility, they did not place a mint mark on their coins. To the untrained eye, every single one of those 3 billion pennies looks completely identical. That massive flood of coins is precisely where the secret lies hidden. When billions of coins are produced at lightning speed, human errors and machinery failures are guaranteed to happen. Mint workers were operating heavy machinery under intense pressure, working around the clock to meet demand. In that high-stakes, fast-paced environment, incredible mistakes slipped past quality control and escaped into everyday circulation. Ordinary citizens received these flawed coins in their daily change, entirely oblivious to the incredible treasure they were carrying in their wallets. Consider the legendary wrong planchet error. During production in 1973, an extraordinarily rare mechanical mix-up occurred inside the Philadelphia facility. A silver blank meant for a Roosevelt dime accidentally slipped into the hopper reserved for Lincoln pennies. The heavy steel dies slammed down with immense hydraulic force, striking the Lincoln design directly onto a silver dime disc. What emerged was not a normal copper penny, but a striking, alien-looking silver cent. It was smaller, lighter, and completely stripped of its traditional copper color. When one of these authenticated 1973 penny errors surfaced at auction, coin enthusiasts went wild. The coin was sold for an astonishing $26,400. Imagine receiving a odd, silvery penny as change from a drive-thru, keeping it in a drawer for decades, and later discovering it is worth as much as a brand new luxury vehicle. The wrong planchet mistake is only the beginning of the mystery. Another phenomenon driving relentless search efforts across the nation is the double die error. During the process of creating the steel dies used to stamp coins, the image must be impressed multiple times. If the hub shifts even a fraction of a millimeter between impressions, a ghost-like double image is permanently carved into the metal. When pennies were struck with these misaligned dies in 1973, subtle doubling occurred on crucial elements of the coin. If you hold a 1973 no-mint mark penny under strong magnification and examine the lettering, you might spot dramatic, shadowed doubling on the words "I in God we trust," the word liberty, or the numbers of the date itself. While minor double die coins can easily fetch $100 from eager collectors, prominent examples with sharp doubling provoke intense competition among buyers desperate to add a rare variety to their collection. Then there are the off-center strikes, created when a blank copper disc fails to seat properly inside the coining press. The heavy die crashes down off target, leaving a dramatic blank crescent on one side of the coin while squeezing the design toward the edge. An off-center 1973 penny where the date remains fully visible can command hundreds of dollars instantly. Collectors actively hunt for these bizarre, distorted pieces of metal because they represent a chaotic moment in American minting history where the machinery went rogue. Yet, errors are not the only reason a 1973 no-mint mark penny can trigger a massive windfall. There is another factor that is far more elusive and far more difficult to find. It is called high-grade condition. When pennies left the Philadelphia Mint in 1973, they were gleaming with a brilliant, untouched reddish luster. But copper is an exceptionally reactive metal. The moment a penny touches human fingers, the natural oils from skin begin a slow, aggressive process of oxidation. Moisture in the air corrodes the surface. Within weeks, a bright red coin turns to a dull brown hue. Millions upon millions of 1973 pennies were circulated, dropped, handled, and tarnished until their original factory luster was completely erased. Because pristine, untouched coins from 1973 are virtually non-existent today, professional grading service companies like PCGS and NGC have established strict numerical standards to evaluate coin conditions. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin rated mint state 60 is uncirculated, but might show faint hairline scratches. A coin rated mint state 67 or higher is practically flawless, retaining its original cherry red glow from the day it was minted over half a century ago. This is where the market value spikes into breathtaking territory. An ordinary, worn 1973 penny in your pocket might only be worth a few cents for its raw copper content. But if that exact same coin somehow survived 50 years without a single scratch, kept in a sealed bank roll or a forgotten collection, its value explodes. At major heritage auctions events, a 1973 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny certified in top-tier mint state 67 red condition shocked the numismatic community when bidding escalated rapidly, eventually selling for nearly $4,000. Think about that staggering ratio. A single cent, preserved in pristine condition, sold for hundreds of thousands of times its original face value. Collectors are willing to pay astronomical premiums for these high-grade red pennies because finding one in the wild today is like finding a needle in a continent-sized haystack. The mystery deepens when you step into the world of viral legends and high-stakes market rumors surrounding the 1973 era. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, as copper prices threatened to break the bank, the United States government secretly ordered the mint to experiment with alternative metals. They began secretly testing lightweight aluminum planchets. Over 1 million experimental aluminum pennies were struck around 1973 and 1974. Officially, when the government decided not to roll out aluminum coins to the public, the entire stash was ordered to be destroyed in secret melting furnaces. Look at the change sitting on your desk or in your wallet right now. How many times have you glanced at a penny, seen the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, and tossed it aside without checking the date? How many thousands of dollars have passed through your hands over the course of your life, only to be handed over to a store clerk or dumped into a coin-counting machine that charged you a fee to take away your fortune. The tragic reality is that millions of people walk past life-changing value every single day simply because they do not know what to look for. Finding a valuable 1973 no-mint mark penny does not require a degree in metallurgy or a massive financial investment. It only requires patience, sharp eyes, and a good magnifying glass. Start by gathering every penny you can find. Look at the date under direct light. Verify that it reads 1973 and ensure there is no letter beneath the date. Next, inspect the overall color. Is it a dull, dark brown? Or does it shine with a brilliant, fiery red luster? If it looks like it just rolled off the assembly line yesterday, set it aside immediately. Never clean the coin. Cleaning a rare coin with chemicals or cloth will instantly destroy its surface finish and ruin its auction value. Next, grab a magnifying glass and examine the finer
We are
details.
not talking about
Look
gold bars
closely
buried
at
in
the
a wooden
lettering
chest
around
on
the
some
border.
deserted island.
Check Liberty and
We
I
are
Am
not
God
talking
We
about
Trust
rare
for
vintage
subtle
sports
doubling or
cards locked
overlapping
away in a
edges.
high-security vault.
Inspect the surface for
We are
unusual
talking about a
coloration.
single,
If the
solitary
coin appears
copper coin,
silver,
a
test its
penny.
weight or take it to a reputable local
Specifically,
dealer
a
to see if it could be a
1941
wrong
Lincoln
planchet
wheat cent
stripe
with
on a
no
dime
mint
blank.
mark.
Every minor
Most
detail,
people see a
every
90-year-old
slight
coin and think it
imperfection,
is worth a few
and
cents
every
at best.
unexpected color
They
variation
toss it
could
into
be
a
the
tip
single
jar or leave
indicator
it
that
behind on
separates
a
an
gas
ordinary
station
coin from a
counter. But
multi-thousand-dollar
behind the
auction
scenes,
highlight.
in the
The
high-stakes
hunt for
world of rare coin
coins is one of
collecting,
the last
whispers
true
have
treasure
begun to
hunts
spread.
remaining in modern society. You do not need to dive into the ocean or dig up ancient ruins in a foreign country. The treasure is already here, resting in bankrolls, piggy banks, drawer corners, and cash registers in every town across America. Someone out there is going to search through their loose change today and discover a rare 1973 Lincoln penny that pays off their debt, funds a family vacation, or starts a world-class collection. Right now, sitting inside a dusty glass jar on your nightstand, resting in a forgotten coffee can in your garage, or jangling loose at the bottom of your car cup holder. There could be a single copper coin worth more than your entire home. It looks entirely ordinary. It carries the familiar side profile of Abraham Lincoln. It bears the year 1972. And if you look right underneath that date, you will see absolutely nothing. No letter S, no letter D, just a smooth copper surface beneath 4 simple numbers. To the average person, that coin is nothing more than 1 cent. It is the pocket change you hand over without thinking. It is the unwanted metal you leave behind in a leave a penny. Take a penny tray at a convenience store. But to a secret network of high-stakes coin investors, auction houses, and eagle-eyed treasure hunters, a specific 1972 copper penny with no mint mark is one of the most fiercely hunted modern errors in American history. In recent years, viral headlines, collector folklore, and explosive
Imagine
auction
holding a
results have
piece of
sent
American
shockwaves
history
through
in the palm
collecting
of your
community.
hand, completely
Rumors have
unaware that it
circulated
could be
miraculous
worth more
high-grade
than your
specimens
house.
and legendary mint mistakes associated with this exact date fetching astronomical sums, with whisper numbers and hype spiraling into the hundreds of thousands, and in extreme mythic claims even touching the incredible threshold of $1.2 million. While the average penny from that era will only buy you a moment of nostalgia, the right 1972 Lincoln cent carries a story of human error, mass panic, microscopic perfection, and life-changing wealth. The question is not whether these coins exist. The question is whether you have already held one in your hand and passed it along to someone else without ever realizing what you had. To understand how a humble 1-cent piece created such massive shockwaves, you have to rewind time to the early 1970s. The United States Mint in Philadelphia was working at maximum capacity. Millions of bronze planchets were feeding through high-speed mechanical coining presses every single day. At the Philadelphia Mint, standard operating procedure meant that coins did not carry a mint mark. Coins minted in Denver received a small d, coins minted in San Francisco received a small s. Philadelphia coins were completely blank beneath the date. Because of this standard practice, over 2 billion 1972 pennies entered circulation with no mint mark. On the surface, that massive production number should have guaranteed one simple fact. Number 1972 Philadelphia penny could ever be rare. If there are billions of something, basic economics tells us it should be practically worthless. And for 99.9% of those coins, that basic rule holds true. They were spent on newspapers, dropped into candy machines, rusted in forgotten piggy banks, and tossed into junk drawers across all 50 states. In the coin manufacturing process, a master hub impresses a design onto a working die, which is then used to stamp blank metal discs into finished coins. Back in 1972, making a working die required multiple impressions from the master hub to transfer the full depth of the design. Between these impressions, the steel die had to be treated and aligned precisely. If the operator misaligned the die between hubbings, the design would be stamped onto the steel twice, slightly offset from one another. That exact nightmare scenario happened in 1972. A working die was misaligned during creation, creating a dramatic, heavy doubling effect across the entire front face of the coin. But because the mint was pumping out coins at breakneck speed, nobody noticed the flaw immediately. The flawed steel die was locked into a coining press, and thousands of blank copper discs were stamped with this corrupted, doubled image. Before quality control inspectors could spot the mistake and destroy the die, thousands of these defective coins were scooped up, packed into canvas bags, loaded onto armored trucks, and distributed to banks all across America. When sharp-eyed collectors first spotted these strange coins in their change in late 1972, the realization hit like a lightning bolt. This was not a subtle mistake. This was not something you needed a high-powered laboratory microscope to spot. The doubling was so prominent, so raised, and so extreme that you could easily see it with the naked eye. The words "I in God we trust" were distinctly printed twice, creating a shadowed, ghost-like outline beside every letter. The word liberty looked as if it had been stamped by two different hammers slightly out of alignment. The numbers in the date 1972 showed heavy,
But every single day,
unmistakable
millions of
doubling
dollars in
along their
forgotten
edges.
treasure
The
pass
United
through the
States
hands
Mint
of ordinary
quickly realized
Americans
what
who
had
have no
happened and moved
idea.
swiftly to destroy the bad dies. In fact, historians and numismatic experts later discovered that at least 9 different double dies were created during 1972 as the mint rushed to meet demand. But only one of them, known to collectors today as Die Variety 1 or FS101, possessed the intense, dramatic doubling that collectors craved. The other varieties showed lighter doubling, but Die Variety 1 was the king. As the years rolled on, the surviving supply of this famous error began to vanish. Millions of people held on to them, but vast quantities were lost, scratched, worn down, or damaged beyond recognition through daily commerce. As decades passed, a new factor emerged that turned an already exciting coin hunt into an absolute frenzy: the emergence of professional third-party grading services. In the late 1980s and 1990s, companies began evaluating coins using a strict 70-point numerical scale. Suddenly, a coin was no longer just good or bad. A coin was graded on microscopic perfection. A 1972 double die penny in well-worn condition might fetch a few $100s. But a coin that had somehow escaped human hands, avoided scratches, preserved its original bright red copper luster, and achieved an elite mint state grade like MS67 or higher became an ultra-rare prize. This is where market hype, collector competition, and explosive value spikes ignited. When two wealthy collectors collide at a major public auction over a coin that is essentially flawless, standard price guides get tossed out the window. Bidding wars break out, records shatter. In high-grade red condition, verified 1972 Die Variety 1 pennies began selling for thousands, then tens of thousands of dollars. As the rare coin market surged alongside internet coin forums, social media video trends, and viral news stories, sensational headlines began to circulate. Reports of extraordinary sales, pristine museum-grade specimens, and speculative valuation estimates started making rounds, with viral posts claiming that under the absolute perfect storm of rarity, top-tier grading, preserved original red luster, and passionate collector rivalries, a top-grade specimen could be touted as a $1-million treasure. While extreme headline figures often capture the wildest imaginations of the public, the underlying truth remains thrilling. Real, verified examples of the 1972 major double die penny regularly sell for substantial sums of money, often turning an accidental discovery in pocket change into thousands of dollars of immediate cash. Consider how extraordinary that reality truly is. In a world where financial security often feels out of reach, and where every dollar requires grueling work, there are small metal discs circulating quietly through our society that hold hidden fortunes. They pass through the hands of cashiers, waiters, gas station clerks, and everyday families who have no idea they are holding a piece of valuable American history. Think about how many times you have emptied your pockets at the end of a long day. How many times have you thrown handfuls of brown, oxidized pennies into a plastic container or an old glass jar, viewing them as heavy, useless clutter? Statistically, millions of 1972 pennies are still sitting in private homes across the country. Many of them were placed in coffee cans during the 1970s and 1980s by parents or grandparents who simply liked saving copper coins. Those jars have sat untouched in attics, basements, and closets for 40, 50, or more years, acting as accidental time capsules. If you want to find one of these hidden treasures yourself, you do not need expensive specialized equipment or a degree in metallurgy. You only need patience, a good light source, a basic magnifying glass or smartphone camera zoom, and a keen eye for detail. Start by sorting through your copper cents and isolating any penny dated 1972 that has no mint mark below the date. Once you have selected a 1972 Philadelphia penny, look closely at the obverse, which is the front side of the coin displaying Abraham Lincoln. Focus your eyes directly on the motto "In God We Trust" running along the top rim. Look at the letter I, the letter G, and the letter T. On a genuine, high-value die variety 1 double die, you will notice a clear, bold separation between two distinct impressions. The letters will look significantly thicker than normal, with sharp, clear notchings at the corners of the lettering. Next, shift your gaze to the word Liberty on the left side of the coin. Look closely at the letter L, the letter B, and the letter E. On the famous error, the doubling is unmistakable, drifting slightly to the elevated side and giving the text a distinctly layered, three-dimensional appearance. Finally, examine the numbers in the date 1972 on the lower right side. Look at the top diagonal stroke of the number 7 and the sweeping curve of the number 2. If you see strong, prominent doubling across all three of these key areas at the same time, you may very well be holding the legendary FS 101 major double die. It is important to remain sharp and vigilant during your search. You will likely encounter other 1972 pennies that show faint traces of what collectors call strike doubling or machine doubling. Machine doubling happens when loose coining equipment vibrates slightly as the coin is being ejected, creating a flat, shelf-like mechanical flat spot on the letters. Machine doubling does not add significant value because it is not part of the actual hub die design. A true, valuable double die possesses raised, rounded, fully formed double characters that stand out proud against the surface of the coin. What makes this search so intoxicating is the element of absolute surprise. Unlike modern lottery tickets or casino games, where the odds are stacked entirely against you and the ticket costs you money, hunting through old change costs you nothing. The penny in your hand will always be worth at least 1 cent. But with the right alignment of history, mechanical error, and preservation, that exact same cent can completely change your financial outlook in an instant. Every single day, incredible coin finds are documented across America. People buying estate sale collections, cleaning out childhood bedrooms, or simply going through bank-wrapped rolls are discovering valuable errors that were overlooked for generations. The 1972 no-mint mark double die Lincoln penny remains the ultimate symbol of the hidden treasure hypothesis, proving that extraordinary value can lurk behind the most ordinary surfaces. The next time you receive change at a store, do not casually toss those pennies aside. Take a moment, turn the coin over in your hand, check the date. Look closely beneath Lincoln's bust for the missing mint mark. Inspect the bold lettering of our national motto. The story of the 1972 penny is a living reminder that history is held in our hands every single day. Right now in your pocket, sitting quietly at the bottom of a jar, or sliding between the cushions of your couch, there is a tiny copper-colored disc. You pass it every single day. You give it away at grocery store checkouts without giving it a second thought. To almost everyone on Earth, it is worth exactly 1 cent. But behind closed doors in the high-stakes world of elite coin collecting, whispers have been growing into a deafening roar. Rumors, shocking auction records, and viral headlines have tied a simple penny from the year 2002 to mind-boggling valuation figures, with some whisper campaigns and wild market rumors linking extraordinary specimen claims up to $1.3 million. Could an ordinary piece of modern pocket change really be hiding a life-changing fortune? Could you be holding a modern treasure without even realizing it? Before you spend another cent, you need to understand what makes the 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny one of the most intriguing, misunderstood, and intensely searched coins of the modern era. Every
We are
year,
not
the
talking
United
about
States
gold
Mint
bar.
produces billions of Lincoln pennies. They flood into circulation, fill cash registers, and quietly roll through the veins of the American economy. Most of these coins are minted at facilities across the country, primarily in Philadelphia and Denver. If a penny is struck in Denver, you will see a small letter D stamped right beneath the date on the front of the coin. But if you look at a penny struck in Philadelphia, you might notice something surprising. There is no mint mark at all beneath the year 2002.
Bars buried in a wooden
For
chest on
decades,
some deserted.
Philadelphia simply omitted its mint mark on smaller denominations, making the absence of a letter completely normal on paper. Yet, to the untrained eye, discovering a coin with a missing mark feels like finding a secret production error. This simple visual detail has sparked endless curiosity, fueling a nationwide obsession that drives millions of ordinary people to inspect their pocket change every single day. To understand why a simple copper coin could trigger such intense speculation, you have to look past the surface and peer into the secret mechanics of the coin market. In the world of rare numismatics, value is never determined by age alone. A coin from ancient Rome can sometimes sell for less than $50, while a coin minted during your lifetime can command the price of a luxury estate. The true drivers of value are rarity, preservation, and unique mint errors. Mint errors occur when the precision machinery of the United States Mint experiences a mechanical breakdown or human oversight during the striking process. When a coin is struck off-center, stamped multiple times, or pressed onto the wrong metal planchet, a common penny is instantly transformed into an industrial mistake. And in the eyes of collectors, a government mistake is the ultimate prize. Imagine a scenario deep inside the minting facility. Massive machinery stamps out thousands of planchets every minute with relentless force and speed. Millions of coins pass through without a single flaw. But every once in a long while, something goes unexpectedly wrong. A die cracks under pressure, leaving a raised, jagged line
We are not
across the
talking
surface of
about
the
gold
coin.
bars
A planchet fails to feed correctly, resulting in
buried
an
in a wooden
off-center
chest.
strike where part of Abraham Lincoln's profile is cut off entirely. Or even more dramatically, a foreign object falls between the die and the blank metal, leaving a permanent indent stamped forever into the copper. These are not minor scuffs or scratches from daily use. These are minting errors created at the exact moment of birth. When an error coin like
on
this
some
slips
deserted
past
island.
quality control
We are
inspectors
not
and
talking
enters
about rare
circulation,
vintage sports
a ticking
cards
clock
locked away
begins.
in a high
It
security
circulates
vault.
quietly from hand to hand
We are talking
until
about a
someone
single,
finally notices
solitary
that something
copper
is
coin,
deeply wrong with the
a
coin in
penny.
their palm. Beyond
Specifically,
mechanical
a
errors lies another critical
1941 Lincoln
factor
wheat
that
cent with
separates
no
ordinary
mint mark.
pocket change from astronomical auction results, and that factor is microscopic condition. In elite coin collecting, condition is everything. Professional grading services use a 70-point scale to evaluate the physical state of a coin. A coin that has been touched by human hands, jingled around in a pocket, or used to buy a soda instantly drops down the grading scale, losing almost all of its potential premium value. But a coin that was somehow preserved in pristine, original condition from the very moment it was struck is a completely different story. A 2002 Lincoln penny in a grade of mint state 68 or mint state 69 is virtually non-existent in the wild. Finding a coin without a single microscopic scratch, surface contact mark, or trace of oxidation after more than 2 decades is like finding a needle in a haystack spread across an entire continent. This is where the valuation frenzy reaches its absolute peak. When coin dealers and wealthy collectors fight over top-grade specimens or legendary error coins at exclusive auctions, bidding wars break out. Prices double, triple, and skyrocket beyond all reasonable expectations. As these extraordinary sales make headlines, the details often get blurred by the public. A high-grade error penny selling for a record price suddenly turns into a sweeping viral claim that every 2002 penny without a mint mark is worth millions. People hear the rumor of a $1.3 million payout and immediately run to check their piggy banks, hope building with every coin they inspect. While the extreme claims are often wrapped in hype and exaggeration, the underlying truth remains deeply compelling. Rare errors and top-grade specimens really do command serious money, and they really are sitting in ordinary homes right now waiting to be identified. So how do you separate common change from a potential jackpot? How do you inspect a 2002 no mint mark penny to see if you have holding something extraordinary? The process requires patience, a keen eye, and a few basic tools. First, you must hold the coin under bright light and look closely at the date and surrounding fields using a magnifying glass or a digital microscope. Look for signs of doubling in the lettering or numbers, known as a double die error. This happens when the coin die receives two separate impressions during hubbing, creating a distinct, layered shadow effect on the text "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 2002 itself. Double die errors are highly sought after and can turn an ordinary penny into a valuable treasure overnight. Next, examine the outer edge and the overall alignment of the coin's design. Is the border unnaturally thick on one side and paper thin on the other? An off-center strike creates a dramatic visual distortion where part of the design is completely missing, leaving blank planchet metal exposed. The higher the percentage of off-center displacement while still retaining the date, the higher the value to serious error collectors. You should also examine the surface color and texture. A genuine uncirculated penny from 2002 will retain its original bright reddish luster, completely free of brown oxidation, corrosion, or heavy finger smudges. Coins that maintain their original red strike color are graded under the strict designation of red, which commands the highest premium prices in the market. Think about how many times you have ignored a penny lying on the sidewalk or left change sitting in a cup holder in your car. We live in a society that rarely pays attention to small denomination currency. Most people consider pennies to be an inconvenience, a heavy leftover of an analog financial world. But that exact indifference is what creates opportunity for the attentive searcher. Hundreds of thousands of coins circulate without ever being closely examined by anyone who knows what to look for. While millions of standard 2002 pennies remain worth face value, the hidden errors, the misstrikes, and the pristine uncirculated survivors are resting peacefully in old coin jars, untouched inside forgotten boxes, or buried in rolls of change waiting at your local bank. Imagine opening a simple bank roll of pennies, unrolling the paper wrapper, and spilling 50 shiny copper discs onto your desk. As you slide them one by one under a magnifying lens, you spot something unusual. The letters in Liberty appear double-stamped. The surface glows with intense original mint luster without a single scratch. In that single moment, a coin that cost you exactly 1 cent transforms into a verified piece of numismatic history worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The thrill of discovery is not just about the monetary reward, although the financial payoff can be life-changing. It is about holding a secret mistake in your hand, a tangible piece of history that escaped the strict control of a government mint and survived untouched for over 20 years. The obsession with finding valuable coins in everyday circulation has inspired a massive community of modern coin hunters. Every day, people from all walks of life are picking up magnifying glasses, purchasing uncirculated bank rolls, and carefully examining every piece of change that passes through their hands. They are proving that you do not need to be a millionaire to build a valuable collection or discover hidden wealth. You do not need expensive equipment or a degree in history. All you need is knowledge, curiosity, and the willingness to look a little closer at the money you handle every single day. The legend of the 2002 no mint mark penny reminds us that extraordinary value is often disguised as ordinary life. Right now, in a forgotten coat pocket, an old jar on your nightstand, or the cup holder of your car, there could be a single copper penny sitting in plain sight that holds a secret capable of shaking your financial world. It looks completely harmless. It features the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, minted in the year 1979. There is no special mint mark beneath the date. To the untrained eye, it is just 1 cent, passed along millions of times without a second thought. Yet behind closed doors in the high-stakes world of rare coin auctions, collector private networks, and feverish internet hunts, rumors and verified sales of extraordinarily rare 1979-era pennies have sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. Rumors and viral market hype have linked extraordinary, Once-in-a-lifetime mint mistakes from this exact year to valuations climbing as high as $1.4 million in extreme, unverified rumors, while verified high-grade specimens and devastating error strikes regularly command thousands of dollars from eager buyers. The difference between a worthless piece of pocket change and a life-changing prize often comes down to microscopic details that 99% of people walk past every single day. To understand why a 1979 penny without a mint mark has ignited such intense obsession, you have to rewind to the late 1970s. The United States Mint in Philadelphia was churning out billions of Lincoln Memorial cents to keep up with nationwide commercial demand. Millions of coins poured off the presses every day. Because Philadelphia was the primary mother mint, standard circulating cents produced there did not carry a letter mark under the date. To everyone in America, a 1979 penny with no mint mark was the definition of ordinary. People used them to pay for candy, newspapers, and groceries, tossing them into jars and register drawers without a second glance. However, beneath the chaotic surface of mass production, something went wrong inside the minting facility. Mechanical failures, misaligned coin dies, flawed planchets, and human oversight collided to create rare anomalies. In the coin-collecting world, perfection commands money, but extreme imperfection commands absolute fortunes. When a metal blank enters a high-speed press, it is subjected to immense hydraulic pressure. The hardened steel dies stamp the image of Abraham Lincoln into the metal in a fraction of a second. Normally, the machine operates flawlessly. Yet every so often, a blank shifts out of place, or a die receives a secondary impression that creates a ghosted doubling effect, or an unplated planchet sneaks into the hopper. When these flawed coins escaped into general circulation, they set off a slow-burning treasure hunt that has only intensified over the decades. Yet the real suspense does not stop with pristine condition. The true thrill for hunters lies in the realm of mint errors. Consider the legendary double die obverse error. When a coin die is being produced, it must be hubbed multiple times to transfer the intricate details of the design onto the die face. If the steel die shifts slightly between impressions, every single coin struck by that die will bear a doubled image. On a 1979 penny, collectors search frantically for sharp doubling on the date, the lettering of liberty, or the national motto "In God We Trust." Under a simple magnifying lens, the crisp double lines appear like a shadow, turning a simple copper disc into a high-demand collector item that can fetch hundreds of dollars instantly at auction. The suspense deepens when you examine off-center strikes. Imagine a metal blank feeding into the press, but instead of resting dead center beneath the heavy steel dies, it sits 40% or 50% out of position. The massive pressure strikes down, imprinting only half of Lincoln's portrait, while leaving a crescent of blank copper visible along the edge. If the date remains fully readable on an off-center strike, the value skyrockets. Serious collectors pay top dollar for dramatic off-center errors because they represent a catastrophic failure of quality control at the Philadelphia Mint. As news of these rare discoveries spread across coin forums, auction platforms, and social media, a wave of intense hype swept through the collecting community. Stories began circulating about mysterious 1979 penny errors commanding staggering sums. Viral claims and online lore hinted at impossible transitional errors, double-struck planchets on foreign metal planchets, and ultra-rare trial strikes that allegedly fetched astronomical sums reaching all the way up to $1.4 million in extreme speculative rumor cycles. While coin experts urge caution and carefully distinguish between viral internet myths and authenticated auction records, the sheer existence of high-dollar error sales keeps the entire market on edge. The psychological thrill is undeniable. Everyone wants to believe that hidden inside their house is a piece of copper capable of wiping out debt, paying off a mortgage, or funding a dream retirement. Consider the mechanical mystery of off-metal errors. During transitional periods or routine operations, leftover metal blanks composed of different alloys or meant for foreign coin contracts occasionally fell into the wrong production hoppers. If a 1979 Lincoln penny design was accidentally struck on a blank intended for a dime or a foreign coin, the resulting hybrid is a spectacular collector dream. These coins display unusual weights, strange metallic shines, or clipped edges that defy standard mint parameters. When authenticated by major grading services, these extraordinary mint mistakes become centerpieces of high-profile coin auctions, sparking fierce bidding wars among elite collectors. What makes the 1979 Lincoln penny so uniquely captivating compared to other years is its role as a bridging era in American coinage. Just a few years after 1979, the United States Mint permanently altered the composition of the Lincoln penny from 95% copper to a zinc core plated with a thin wash of copper. That means your 1979 penny is crafted from heavy, solid vintage bronze metal. It carries a satisfying physical weight and an authentic metallic warmth that modern pennies simply cannot match. Every time you hold a 1979 penny, you are holding a physical piece of American industrial history, struck right at the twilight of the full copper era. The tension builds every day because thousands of unexamined 1979 pennies are currently sitting in forgotten places across the United States. They are resting at the bottom of coffee cans in garages, tucked away in vintage piggy banks, lying in estate sale coin collections, or passing silently through register tills at local grocery stores. Most people who receive a 1979 penny in their change throw it into a dish without giving it a second thought. They assume that because it lacks a mint mark and carries a common date, it carries no special story. But that exact assumption is why these valuable treasures remain undiscovered. Imagine taking out a magnifying glass tonight and examining every 1979 penny in your possession. You carefully inspect the date for subtle, distinct doubling on the numerals 1, 9, 7, and 9. You turn the coin under a strong light source, checking the crispness of the letters in Liberty and examining the fine details of Lincoln's coat lapel and earlobe. You look along the outer rim for thick, raised doubled edges, clipped sections, or dramatic off-center misalignments. You check the physical weight on a precision digital scale to verify whether the coin weighs the standard 3.11 grams or reveals an unusual anomaly. In that single quiet moment of examination, the mundane act of checking pocket change transforms into an adrenaline-fueled quest. The realization dawns on you that value is not always announced with flashy gold or giant banners. Sometimes, monumental financial value hides behind decades of dust, disguised as an everyday object that everyone else overlooked. The world of rare coin collecting proves time and again that life-changing discoveries do not require a fortune to start. They simply require an open eye, a curious mind, and the willingness to look closer than anyone else. Every pocket change transaction you make tomorrow is a fresh opportunity. Every jar of coins waiting in your closet is an unread story waiting to be unraveled. The legendary 1979 Lincoln penny without a mint mark stands as a dramatic reminder that ordinary pocket change can hold extraordinary secrets. The next coin you hold in the palm of your hand could be just another cent, or it could be the hidden jewel of a lifetime. The search begins the moment you decide to look. Check your pocket, your couch cushions, or that old jar sitting on your dresser right now. A single, ordinary-looking brown copper penny from 1942 could be sitting in your hand, quietly waiting to change your life. Most people look at a 1942 Lincoln wheat penny and see a cent. They see a dusty piece of pocket change from the World War II era, barely worth the metal it was printed on. But collector circles and auction houses know a very different story. Behind that humble image of Abraham Lincoln lies a saga of secret mint errors, extreme high-grade condition spikes, and wild market hype that has pushed rumored valuations into the millions. Imagine pulling a coin out of your spare change, tossing it into a jar, and having no idea that collectors might fight over it at auction. What if the penny you ignored yesterday carries a hidden story that makes it worth thousands, or even more? To understand why this coin commands so much attention, you have to travel back to 1942. The world was at war. The United States was pouring every resource into the war effort, and military forces needed copper for shell casings, wiring, and machinery. Mint facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were pumping out billions of coins under intense pressure. In the middle of this chaos, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. Because Philadelphia was the main mint, these coins did not carry a mint mark. No tiny D below the date, no small s, just the year 1942 sitting right next to Lincoln's profile. On paper, a 1942 no mint mark penny is common. Millions were made and millions entered circulation. People used them to buy newspapers, pay for bus rides, and buy candy. Over time, billions of these coins wore down, rusted, or vanished into history. The secret lies in what happened behind closed doors at the mint and what happens when a coin escapes the damage of time. During the frenzy of wartime production, things went wrong. Dies wore down fast. Machinery slipped. Planchets, the blank metal discs used to strike coins, were fed into presses incorrectly. Most flawed coins were caught and destroyed, but a few slipped past inspection and made it into public hands. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. A penny that spent decades bouncing around pockets, keys, and cash registers loses its original luster. It develops scratches, wear, and brown toning. Coins like that are common, but every now and then, a coin is set aside the day it leaves the mint. It sits in a bank bag, a rolled wrapper, or a forgotten coffee can, completely untouched by human fingers. When professional grading services evaluate a 1942 Lincoln penny, they look for original red copper color, pristine surfaces, and razor-sharp details. A coin graded in top-tier mint state condition is no longer just a piece of pocket change. It becomes a rare historical survivor. As the years went on, rare coin auctions started setting record prices for top-grade wartime pennies. Stories began circulating about high-grade copper pennies selling for tens of thousands of dollars. Then, viral rumors swept through the internet, claiming that ultra-rare error versions or legendary experimental strikes of the 1942 penny could be worth up to $1.5 million. While extreme figures often represent extraordinary market hype, rare mint errors, or legendary one-of-a-kind anomalies, the excitement is real. The possibility that an uncirculated or rare error coin is still hiding in an everyday collection drives thousands of people to inspect their spare change every single day. Think about how many hands that 1942 penny passed through before it ended up in an old coffee can in an attic. Think about how many people looked right at it, spent it for face value, and never checked the details under a magnifying glass. The difference between an ordinary penny and a valuable treasure often comes down to millimeter-thin details. A tiny double line on the word Liberty, a subtle shadow on the date numbers, an extraordinary red shine that survived 8 decades without fading. This is what makes the 1942 no-mint Mark Lincoln Wheat penny so captivating. It lives in the space between common everyday history and extraordinary hidden value. It sits quietly in jars, piggy banks, estate sales, and change purses across the country, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. Imagine reaching into your pocket right now, pulling out a handful of loose change, and staring at a completely ordinary, weathered brown penny. It looks worthless, feels light. You would probably throw it into a jar on your dresser or leave it in the cup holder of your car without giving it a second thought. But what if that single, plain piece of copper sitting quietly in your hand was carrying a secret worth thousands, or even a mind-bending fortune that collectors only dare to whisper about? Right now, millions of people across America are unknowingly spending, hoarding, or throwing away coins that could change their lives forever. Among these everyday pieces of metal lies one specific coin that has sparked viral rumors, intense debates, and wild treasure hunts across the entire country. The 1981 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Most people see a simple cent featuring the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln. They see a common coin from an era of big hair, cassette tapes, and classic rock. But beneath that simple metallic surface lies a story filled with incredible twists, unbelievable errors, rare grading anomalies, and price tags that sound too absurd to be true. Today, you are going to learn why this humble coin has the entire coin collecting world in a state of absolute frenzy, and why you need to check your pocket change before you ever spend another cent. To understand the mystery of the 1981 penny, you first have to step back in time. In 1981, the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies to keep up with the demands of a booming economy. Vast facilities in Philadelphia and Denver were striking coins day and night at breakneck speed. The sheer volume was staggering. Millions upon millions of copper discs were stamped, bagged, and shipped out to banks across the nation. When a coin was produced at the Denver Mint, it was stamped with a small letter D underneath the date. But when a penny was minted in Philadelphia during 1981, it received no mint mark at all. Just the 4 numbers of the year sitting plainly beneath Lincoln's bust. Because billions of these no-mint mark pennies were pushed into circulation, almost everyone assumed they were completely common, virtually worthless relics of the 80s. For decades, they sat in dusty jars, piggy banks, and coin trays, completely ignored. Then the rumors started. The answer lies deep within the hidden world of professional coin grading and microscopic minting errors. You see, the vast majority of 1981 pennies you find in your pocket change today are well-worn. They have been passed through millions of hands, dropped on sidewalks, scratched by keys, and exposed to air for over 40 years. They are bruised, battered, and faded. In that condition, they are worth exactly 1 cent. But the world of coin collecting does not operate on normal rules. Collectors are not looking for ordinary coins. They are hunting for perfection or absolute, unbelievable imperfection. Now imagine a 1981 penny that was preserved in a sealed mint set or forgotten in the back of a bank vault, preserving its original, untouched red copper sheen. When a coin reaches the ultra-rare grades of mint state 67 or mint state 68, everything changes. The supply drops from billions to just a handful of known surviving specimens in the entire world. Suddenly, fierce bidding wars erupt among wealthy collectors who want to own the finest known example in existence. Prices spike from pennies to hundreds, then thousands, and even tens of thousands of dollars for a coin that appears flawless under intense microscopic inspection. Picture the chaos of the mint floor in 1981. Massive, heavy machinery operating continuously under high pressure. Metal dies slamming into blank planchets thousands of times every hour. In an environment like that, things are bound to go wrong. And when they do, history is made. One of the most elusive errors collectors search for is the double die strike. This occurs when the steel die used to stamp the coin receives an improper second impression during its creation. When the coin is struck, the lettering, numbers, or Lincoln's profile show a distinct, ghost-like doubling effect. On a 1981 penny, a dramatic double die obverse or reverse can transform a pocket change coin into a highly prized treasure. You might need a strong magnifying glass or a digital microscope to spot it, but to a trained collector, that slight double line around the date or the phrase "In God We Trust" is like finding gold in the dirt. Then there are off-center strikes. Imagine a blank copper disc failing to seat properly inside the striking chamber. The massive die comes crashing down, striking only a portion of the metal. Part of Lincoln's face is missing, leaving a blank, smooth crescent of metal on one side. The more dramatic the off-center percentage, while still showing the full 1981 date, the higher the value skyrockets. This is where the legendary claims come from. When you combine an extreme mint error with an ultra-high immaculate grade and a sudden, desperate clash between billionaire collectors, market hype takes over. Rumors of a 1981 penny reaching sensational, life-changing valuations up to $1.6 million began to capture the public imagination. Whether such an extreme figure represents a record-breaking private sale of a legendary error or the ultimate exaggerated dream of coin hunting, it represents something profound. It proves that the line between loose pocket change and massive wealth is paper-thin. Think about where these coins are hiding right now. They are not locked away in high-security bank vaults or guarded by museum curators. They are sitting quietly in old coffee cans in your garage. They are trapped under the cushions of your living room couch. They are tucked away inside the worn leather wallets of your grandparents, waiting to be rediscovered. Every single day, ordinary people go to grocery stores, gas stations, and laundromats, blindly handing over small metal discs that could pay off a mortgage, cover a college tuition, or fund a dream vacation. They look at the date, see 1981, notice no mint mark, and assume it has no value. They pass it along to the next person, completely oblivious to the hidden miracle trapped inside the metal. The thrill of coin collecting is not just about the money. It is about the thrill of the hunt. It is the overwhelming adrenaline rush of holding a piece of American history in the palm of your hand and realizing that you caught something everyone else missed. It is the realization that true treasure is not buried on some distant desert island, but resting right inside your house at this very moment. So, what are you going to do the next time you receive change at a checkout counter? Are you going to toss those pennies into a jar and forget about them? Or are you going to take a closer look? Grab a magnifying glass. Turn on a bright lamp. Look closely at the date. Check for the sharp, doubled lettering. Look for strange off-center strikes or unusual metallic luster. Check the edges and the surface for pristine, untarnished red copper. That unassuming brown coin sitting on your nightstand might just be an ordinary 1981 penny. But then again, it might be the key to an unbelievable fortune that changes your life forever. The treasure is out there, circulating through millions of hands every single day. The only question left is, will you be the one to find it? Right inside your pocket, resting quietly at the bottom of a dusty jar on your dresser, or sliding beneath the seat of your car. There sits a piece of solid copper that looks completely ordinary. You have held it. You have passed it along to cashiers. You have probably traded it away without a second thought. It bears the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln and the date 1964. There is no letter beneath that date. No little D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just the plain, stark numbers of a year that changed American currency forever. To the untrained eye, it is just a penny. 1 single cent. But what if that innocent piece of metal is sitting on a secret so massive, so lucrative, that collectors and historians have spent decades chasing its ghost? What if the absolute absence of a mint mark on a specific 1964 penny is not just common, but the subtle mask hiding one of the rarest, most valuable minting mysteries in history? Tonight, you will look at your loose change in a way you never have before. Tonight, we uncover why a simple 1964 Lincoln penny without a mint mark has sent shockwaves through the auction world, driving prices from a few cents to thousands, tens of thousands, and into viral claims of ultimate treasures valued at staggering figures up to $1.7 million. Grab your coins, hold them to the light, and listen closely, because the history in your hands might be worth more than your entire house. To understand how a single cent can command such power, we have to travel back to the chaotic world of 1964. The United States was facing an unprecedented financial crisis. Silver was rising rapidly in price, and citizens across the nation were hoarding dimes, quarters, and half-dollars. Panic spread through the Treasury Department. Banks were running out of change. The government needed someone to blame, and they pointed their fingers squarely at coin collectors and everyday citizens who were saving coins in jars and coffee cans. Because so many were made, almost everyone assumed a 1964 penny with no mint mark was essentially worthless beyond its basic copper content. And for 99.9% of them, that remains true. But that massive deluge of billions of coins created the ultimate hiding place. Tucked away within that gigantic ocean of ordinary circulation, strike pennies were experimental anomalies, secretive strikes, preserved high-grade gems, and dramatic errors that were never supposed to leave the walls of the mint. Think about the sheer volume of metal moving through the machines in 1964. Millions of blanks, known as planchets, feeding into high-speed coining presses hour after hour, day after day. When machines run that fast, mistakes are guaranteed to happen. Die slip. Blanks get struck twice. Misaligned color dyes crush metal unevenly. Strange alloys mix together. And when workers hurry to meet massive production quotas, compromised coins slip past inspection and roll out into public hands. Consider the double die obverse error. When a coin die is created, it must be impressed multiple times with a master hub to transfer the design. If the die shifts even a fraction of a millimeter between impressions, it receives a doubled image. When that flawed die strikes blank planchets, every single coin produced will bear crisp, ghostly doubling in the lettering or numbers. On a 1964 Lincoln penny, if you inspect the words "I in God We Trust" or the date itself with a magnifying lens, you might suddenly notice distinct, layered doubling. An error like that turns a plain pocket piece into a multi-$100 collector prize instantly. Then there are the repunched date phenomena and dramatic die cracks. Collectors hunt relentlessly for coins where die stress created raised line cracks that look like jagged lightning striking across Lincoln head or running through the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Other errors involve off-center strikes, where the blank planchet entered the press improperly and received only a portion of the design, leaving a smooth crescent moon of blank copper along the edge. The dramatic nature of these visual errors captures the imagination of buyers who will pay thousands for a coin that looks like a beautiful structural disaster. But errors are only the first layer of this mystery. There is a far deeper, far more secretive level to the 1964 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny story, one that borders on true numismatic mythology. In the mid-1960s, while the mint was preparing to eliminate mint marks and transition away from silver coinage, top mint officials were quietly experimenting behind closed doors. They wanted to create a special type of coin set for collectors that would replace traditional proof sets during the mint mark freeze. These came to be known as special mint sets, or SMS. Official records indicate that special mint sets were publicly issued in 1965, 1966, and 1967. However, mysteriously, a small handful of 1964 dated coins surfaced years later featuring the exact same distinctive characteristics as those special mint sets. Imagine finding a 1964 Lincoln penny with no mint mark that does not look like any regular coin you have ever seen. It possesses an unusually sharp strike with razor-precise details on Lincoln hair and the pillars of the memorial building. Its surface does not have the harsh glare of a proof coin, nor the dull finish of a pocket penny. Instead, it glows with a deep, satin, semi-reflective luster. Where did these mysterious 1964 SMS pennies come from? Who made them? Why were they struck? The leading theory among coin historians points toward the former director of the United States Mint, Eva Adams. When she passed away, estate auctions revealed small, extraordinarily pristine coin sets from 1964 that nobody knew existed. These were experimental trial pieces produced in ultra-low numbers to test the new finish before full production began in 1965. How rare are they? Experts estimate that fewer than 24 1964 SMS Lincoln pennies exist in the entire world. Because they carry no mint mark, they look identical to a normal 1964 Philadelphia penny to anyone who does not know what to look for. They were sat in drawers, mixed in with estate hoards, and perhaps even spent like regular money by people who had no idea what they held. When one of these elusive 1964 SMS pennies appears at major auction houses, the bidding wars are ferocious. They routinely command tens of thousands of dollars. One remarkable specimen sold for over $11,000, while preserved sets and unique strike variations have soared even higher, commanding jaw-dropping sums that shock the public. This brings us to the phenomenon of coin grading and how condition turns an everyday cent into an elite asset class. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are evaluated on a numerical scale from 1 to 70. A coin with a grade of 1 is completely worn smooth, barely recognizable. A grade of 70 represents flawless perfection, exactly as it emerged from the mint dies without a single microscopic scratch or contact mark. When billions of 1964 pennies were released into circulation, millions of people tossed them into pockets, cash registers, and vending machines. They collided with other coins, gathered dirt, lost their original red copper luster, and oxidized into dull brown pieces of metal. Finding a 1964 penny in circulating condition with heavy wear makes it worth just a few cents for its copper content. But what if a 1964 no-mint mark penny somehow bypassed circulation entirely? What if it was placed inside a piggy bank on the day it was minted, kept in a cool, dry place for 60 years, and preserved in immaculate mint state condition? When coin grading services like PCGS or NGC evaluate a red copper penny, they look for pristine original surface color, classified as full red. If a 1964 no-mint mark penny receives a grade of mint state 67 red, its value climbs into the hundreds of dollars. If it reaches mint state 67 plus red, that value jumps into the thousands. And if a single survivor reaches the mythical height of mint state 68 red, a condition so exceptionally perfect that only a couple are known to exist across billions minted, the price explodes into 5 figures at public auction. This intense market demand has fueled dramatic viral headlines and internet rumors. Stories circulate across social media and news outlets about legendary copper coins selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, with extreme, theoretical claims suggesting that if a flawless, historically significant trial piece or unique error combination were ever authenticated, it could fetch up to $1.7 million under ultimate competitive auction conditions. While that top figure represents the absolute apex of viral speculation and rare market hype, the reality behind the hype is grounded in real, documented cash transactions. Everyday people really do discover rare high-grade condition coins and forgotten error pieces in jars of change, inherited cookie tins, and forgotten bank rolls. Now, ask yourself an important question. Where are all those uncirculated 1964 pennies today? In 1964, people were conscious of the changing coinage laws. Families held on to rolls of pennies thinking they might be valuable someday. Millions of those rolls were put into shoe boxes, stored in basements, or tucked away in attics. Over the decades, those original owners passed away, and those hoards were inherited by children and grandchildren who often had no interest in numismatics. They simply took those old rolls to coin-counting machines or bank tellers and cashed them in for face value. So how can you tell if the 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln penny sitting on your desk right now is just an ordinary piece of copper or a hidden jackpot? First, look beneath the date. Confirm there is no mint mark. That establishes it was struck at Philadelphia. Second, check the color and luster. Is the coin dull brown, or does it shine with brilliant, bright orange copper light? If it glows with original mint luster and shows zero where on Lincoln cheekbone, shoulder, or hair, you might be holding an uncirculated survivor worth sending to a professional grading service. Third, grab a magnifying glass or a digital microscope. Examine the lettering. Look closely at the phrase "In God We Trust," the word liberty, and the numbers 1964. Do you see crisp, secondary lines along the edges of the letters? Is there distinct doubling? If so, you may have found a rare double die error. Fourth, look closely at the texture of the fields, which are the flat background areas of the coin. Does the surface look smooth and silky, almost satiny, with hyper-sharp details on the memorial pillars? If so, you could be staring at one of the legendary ultra-rare 1964 special mint set pieces. The treasure hunt is real, and it is happening every single day in pockets across the nation. Millions of people walk right past extraordinary value simply because they never take 10 seconds to look closely at what they are spending. What if the loose change sitting on your nightstand right now holds a fortune so massive it could completely rewrite your financial future? Right now, millions of people across America are carrying around a specific copper coin. They pass it to cashiers, drop it into tip jars, or leave it buried at the bottom of couch cushions without giving it a second thought. To the untrained eye, it looks like a completely ordinary 1-cent piece. It carries the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and the iconic Lincoln Memorial on the back. It bears the year 1988, and notably, it has no mint mark below the date. Most people assume a penny is just a penny. They think the most it will ever be worth is 1 single cent. But what if that quiet, unassuming piece of metal sitting in your pocket is actually a hidden treasure worth thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in high-grade condition? What if a bizarre mistake inside the United States Mint created a rare hybrid variety that collectors are frantically hunting down at this very moment? To understand how a humble 1988 Lincoln penny can suddenly command eye-watering sums at auction, you have to look past the surface. You have to understand the secret life of modern American coinage, the relentless quest for perfection among elite collectors, and a high-stakes mistake that almost nobody noticed when it first happened. Every single year, the United States Mint produces billions of coins to keep the economy moving. In 1988, the Philadelphia Mint cranked out over 4 billion Lincoln pennies. Because they were minted in Philadelphia, none of them carried a mint mark. If you look below the date on a standard 1988 coin from Philadelphia, you will see a blank space. Because billions were made, virtually everyone has handled one of these coins at some point in their life. You might have received 3 of them in your change this morning. You might have a jar overflowing with them in your closet right now. Because of that massive production number, common wisdom says a 1988 penny should be worthless. But common wisdom is often dead wrong when it comes to the secretive world of rare coins. This new 1989 design had a distinct physical signature. On the back of the coin, near the base of the Lincoln Memorial on the right side, you will find the tiny initials of the original designer, Frank Gasparo. On the old 1988 design, the letters F and G were simple, straight, and plain. But on the newly created 1989 design, the G was modified. It featured a distinct, sharp serif at the top and a prominent vertical bar extending downward at the bottom hook. The two designs were supposed to stay completely separate. The 1988 dies were meant only for 1988 coins, and the 1989 dies were meant only for 1989 coins. Then, something extraordinary happened inside the mint walls. Before the official end of 1988, an unknown worker picked up a freshly prepared 1989 reverse die and loaded it into a coining press that was still striking pennies bearing the date 1988. It was a classic transitional mix-up. A futuristic 1989 design was accidentally stamped onto a batch of 1988 pennies. Neither the operators nor the quality control inspectors noticed. Thousands of these transitional coins were struck, poured into heavy canvas bags, shipped out across the country, and released directly into general circulation. For years, nobody had any idea. Millions of people spent these coins on morning coffee, newspapers, and groceries. The secret error lay hidden in plain sight, passing from hand to hand, register to register, for over a decade. It was not until the late 1990s and early 2000s that sharp-eyed numismatists made the startling discovery. When researchers began examining 1988 pennies under high-powered magnification, they noticed the telltale flared G in the designer initials on a tiny fraction of the coins. The news swept through the coin community like wildfire. Suddenly, a coin that everyone took for granted became one of the most sought-after modern varieties in American history. The 1988 penny with the 1989 reverse was officially recognized as a genuine transitional mint error. While millions of standard 1988 pennies exist, only a tiny fraction carry this rare mistake. The rarity alone drove interest through the roof. Collectors realized that because these coins were released straight into circulation, almost every single one of them had been handled, scratched, and worn down by daily use. Finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition was like finding a needle in a mountain of haystacks. This brings us to the second element that transforms an ordinary penny into a high-value trophy. Condition. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a strict scale from 1 to 70. A coin with a grade of 1 is heavily worn and barely identifiable, while a grade of 70 represents absolute, flawless perfection. When a coin is made of copper, like the Lincoln penny, age is its greatest enemy. Copper reacts aggressively with oxygen, humidity, skin oils, and atmospheric pollutants. Over time, bright red copper turns brown, dull, and spotted. To achieve top-tier value, a 1988 penny cannot just be rare. It must also retain its original, fiery mint luster. Professional grading services classify copper coins into 3 color categories: brown, red-brown, and red. A coin classified as red must display at least 95% of its original bright red copper color straight from the minting press. Now imagine combining these two powerful forces. Imagine finding a 1988 penny that not only carries the ultra-rare 1989 transitional reverse error, but has also somehow survived decades without a single scratch, spot, or fingerprint, retaining its radiant full red color. When a coin like that hits the auction block, logic goes out the window. Bidding wars erupt between wealthy collectors, investors, and registry-set competitors who are desperate to own the single finest known specimen in existence. Over the years, rumors and viral stories have circulated about rare coins fetching jaw-dropping sums. Internet headlines occasionally claim that certain transitional errors or unique condition census coins have reached valuations climbing into hundreds of thousands, or even extravagant viral claims reaching up to $1.8 million in speculative market hype. While the highest certified sales in reality often reach into the thousands or tens of thousands for pristine specimens, the sheer psychological power of these viral numbers has ignited a worldwide treasure hunt. People realize that the boundary between a $0 pocket coin and a life-changing windfall can be a fraction of a millimeter in design detail. The beauty of the 1988 no-mint mark penny is that it is still out there. Unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museum vaults or rare silver dollars buried at sea, these pennies are sitting in cash registers right now. They are lying in jars on kitchen counters. They are tucked away in dusty piggy banks passed down from grandparents. So how do you check if you are holding one of these valuable hidden gems? First, take a look at the front of the coin. Verify the date, 1988. Look directly below the date. There should be no letter beneath it. That confirms it was struck at the main mint in Philadelphia. Next, flip the coin over to the reverse side. Turn your attention to the lower right side of the Lincoln Memorial Building. Right next to the bottom step, you will see the tiny designer initials FG. This is where you need a good magnifying glass or a smartphone camera zoomed in close. Look closely at the letter G. If the letter G is smooth and simple, with no extra lines or decorative accents, you have a standard 1988 penny. It is a neat piece of history, but a common one. However, if the letter G clearly features a sharp horizontal serif extending from the top curve, and a deep, square-cut bar hanging down at the bottom, you have struck gold. You are holding the rare 1988 transitional reverse design variety. The true magic of coin hunting is that value is hidden everywhere in plain sight. Every day, millions of dollars in rare varieties, off-center strikes, double dies, and high-grade condition survivors pass through millions of hands unnoticed. Most people glance at their change and see pocket clutter. The trained observer sees an open doorway to discovery. Tonight, before you dump your pocket change into a tray or toss that old penny jar into the trash, take 5 minutes to examine what you actually have. Turn on a bright desk lamp. Pull out a magnifying glass. Look closely at the dates, the mint marks, and the tiny details hidden near the monument walls.